You're listening to the Kennel Confidential podcast brought to you by the United Tree and Feist Association. I'm your host, Davin Ramage.
I'm your co-host, Chad Wagner.
Let's get into the episode. All right, back again and late. I think we're getting in a late groove, it feels like, but better late than never, I guess. Tonight we have got Mr. Owen Brayson with us and Chad on the line, of course. And we're going to jump into an episode and learn a little bit about Owen. He's got two dogs that I'm curious about, Duchess and Duke. And we're going to give him an opportunity to tell us a little bit about the dogs of yesteryear. And let's just get started. Owen, Chad, you there?
I'm
here. Owen's here.
All right. How are you, Mr. Owen?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Glad to have you on. Y'all had a hunt this past weekend, didn't you? Somewhere in Mississippi.
We sure did. Yeah, a little town called Hazelhurst. We actually had it at a wildlife management area up there called Copawa Management Area. And it's managed by Med Farmer, and the state really, him being a state employee, they really helped us out a lot. They showed us a lot of good places to go. We utilized their headquarters and had a really good turnout, you know, considering weather conditions.
Weather was not in your favor.
No, it was not. You know, I mean, 18 degrees, you know, in Mississippi, we're not ready for that, you know. So, but yeah, everybody had a great time. We had 12 dogs that morning, 6 in the bench show, and 6 that evening. And everybody had a really good time. It was low scores, of course, you know, because of the weather conditions, but it was still a lot of fun. A lot of new people.
I guess for clarity, that is the Mississippi Tree and Feist Association, if anybody wants to look them up on Facebook or come to an event.
That's correct, yep. That's right. Now, we're located in a little town of Poplarville, Mississippi. But, you know, I come up with an idea to kind of move our show around the different parts of our state, you know, to get more people interested and, you know, and to our sport and, you know, and help people with travel expenses, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, I thought it was a good idea. And so far it's working out, you know.
Well,
we registered several dogs at every hunt.
That always makes it worth it.
Yes, I think so. You know, it's kind of stressful, you know, when you're the hunt director, you know, it's stressful at times, you know, getting everything together, but I've been doing it so long that it just falls together. I'm pretty comfortable with it now.
It never bothers me. I just watch Chad do all the sweating.
Yeah.
Well, before we fall too deep into it, tell us a little bit about who you are. You told us where you're from, but tell us a little bit about who you are and some other hobbies you have when you're not following dogs around.
All right. Well, I'm 63 years old, have 2 children, I'm single, and I worked for an aerospace company for 39 years, and I'm retired now and full-time squirrel dog trainer, hunter.
That makes me jealous.
It is. I don't even tell my friends because it does. It makes them jealous too, so I try not to do it.
You're a better friend than me because I'd rub their nose in it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really do. It's a year-round project for me. You know, I hunt them, you know, not kill hunt, but I hunt them year-round, and pretty much every day but Sunday.
Yeah, I try, but those dog days and those rattlesnake days, Chad likes to tease me about. In the dog days of summers, he won't ever let me hear the end of my chaps.
There in your country in the wintertime.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Yeah.
As long as I can't see them, I'm good with them. But once I know they're there, I don't like it.
Well, we deal with all of it, you know, the gators and moccasins and everything. But the worst thing to me is mosquitoes.
Well, if you're down that South Mississippi and you're only worried about mosquitoes, I don't want to see your mosquitoes either.
Well, they're terrible. Oh, it's bad. Yeah.
Well, Owen, like I said before we had hit record here, kind of what led me around to you. I've never met you in person. I look forward to it one day. But
yeah, me too.
What led me around to you was I listened to some of these other podcasts and interviews, and there was a dog that kept being mentioned. Everybody keeps saying Owen Brayson had this little Duchess dog, And
Mm-hmm.
I told Chad, I said, let's get Owen on. Let's hear about Duchess, because I keep hearing her mentioned, but I don't know anything else about her.
Well, okay, I'll try to start from the beginning. You know, I had squirrel dogs, but I didn't know about competitions or anything like that. And I think it was somewhere. I tried to think before you called me what the dates were, and I'm thinking somewhere around 1990. I got introduced to ATFA. You know, someone said, "Hey, you ever thought about competition?" I said, "I never even heard of it." So they told me about a guy, and he drove all the way because ATFA, if you're familiar with them, they must see a dog, you know, tree a squirrel before, you know, before you can register the dog in their association. So he came. I was impressed with that. He came all the way from Baton Rouge, which is 2.5 hours probably from me, to see my dog tree a squirrel. And anyway, in her defense, it was in the middle of the day, but we struggled. I mean, we did. We went probably an hour and a half before she finally treed one, you know. And anyway, we get back to the truck, and he says, "Owen," he says, you know, your little dog is okay and everything, but if you want to compete and with the ATFA, you're gonna have to get rid of this junk and get you a river run."
Oh, jeez.
I'll never forget him calling my dog junk, you know, because I do love my dogs, you know. But anyway, but I didn't even know what a river run was. I didn't know, you know. And we have a paper. It's a statewide publication of swap swap shops kind of stuff, you know, buy and sell. And it always has dogs in there, you know, like squirrel dogs and coon hounds and stuff like that, but it never talked about breed. But just so happened it one that said River Run female. And I said, that's that bloodline that man's talking about, you know. So I went and got her, and it was Mr. Bruce Gaddy. I think he lives in Crystal Springs, Mississippi. He had her, and he got her straight from Jerry Ayrton. And if your listeners, they know who that is. He's the one that started the River Run bloodline. Anyway, he told me to, you know, take her and try her. Well, I mean, the first time I took her out, I got 12 squirrels with her. So I called him back. I said, Mr. Gaddy, I said, just cash that check because she ain't coming back. I love it, you know. So anyway, she did really good. I mean, she won just every time I went to hunt. If I didn't win, it was right at it. You know, it was in the top five all the time. So I mean, I really had a lot of fun with her. But she had an early death. She died at 3.5 years old. Speaking of snakes, a daggum snake crawled in her pen and got her.
Oh, man.
And yeah, no, but I did breed her, and that's part of the story where Todd Cole comes in. I did breed her to Booster Dog, and I had a puppy out of it. And he was about 10 months old, and I had messed with him a little bit, but it was hard to leave Dutchess in the pen, you know. So I didn't take him as much as I normally do, as I do now. And but when she died, it just happened to be Christmas holidays. In our company, we had 2 weeks off for Christmas holidays. So I said, well, boys, if you're going to make a squirrel dog, it's going to have to be now. And I took him out, and he hadn't treed up until that point either. And I mean, he hunted a little bit, but he didn't tree. Well, that day he treed one. Well, then the next day he treed another one. And the next day he treed another one. And he started, and by the end of that 2 weeks, he was a squirrel dog. You know, I mean, I could take him and go kill squirrels with him. But my point with that is, if she hadn't died, I'd have never knew how good he was going to be, and he turned out to even be better than her. And I know that people roll their eyes when I say that, but he was exceptional. I mean, he spoke English is all I can tell you. I mean, he really knew what was going on. He knew when we was competing. He knew when we was pleasure hunting. He just knew things. It was very. I learned a lot. I learned, and I still do. Even at my age, I still learn a lot every time I take a dog.
On Duchess, now I'm sure about the only thing you hunted was ATFA. Did you make her grand in ATFA?
No, No, I did win some, but like I said, no, she died pretty early. I mean, I didn't hunt her for like 2 years, you know. And I did win some ATFA hunts, and I was gonna tell that because Todd conveniently keeps leaving that part of the story out. But when I met him in Scotland, Arkansas, I believe it was. And anyway, I was thinking about breeding her, and I've been hearing about this mountain curse Smith streak that was just, like four world time champion or something, but I didn't want a full blood. I wanted a half river run. I mean, I had a recipe in mind. I wanted half river run, half Smith streak. Well, lo and behold, I meet Todd, and he says, "Man, you ever thought about breeding?" I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "Well, I got one you need to breed to." And he told me how it was bred. And I said, "Man, was that meant to be or what?" So she was coming in. So I left her with him. And then we met a month or two later, and he brought her and to the LBL hunt. And I picked her up, and that's where Duke came from right there. Duke. And he had one named Lamy, and she was better than Duke, but she died at an early age too. Todd had a kennel accident where she would jumped up trying to climb the fence and got hung up in the wire somehow or another. It was just terrible, but she was actually better than he was. But it was sad that we couldn't make that cross again for sure.
So Duke was out of Booster and Duchess.
That's correct. Yep. Oh, the part that Todd leaves out that I want to bring up is she won that hunt that day. I keep telling him, I said, you keep forgetting that part.
So the little 10-month-old pup that you hadn't messed with until Duchess died was the Duke dog.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And did you hunt him mostly just ATFA as well?
I hunted ATFA. No, I hunted everything, as I still do. If there's an NKC hunt near me, I go to it. UKC is pretty much what I am because I put those type hunts on. But I also attend the ATFA. I enjoyed them. ATFAs were, my first introduction into competition. So I still enjoy their events for sure.
And if we could get him to come up here to some hunts, Davin, you'd meet him.
I'm coming. I promise you, I'm coming. I am.
There are some Mississippi guys who make the trip up, and they're always fun to have around.
I make them. He's just, oh my goodness. I'm gonna hit you. I do come up there. I've been to LBL a few times. I sure have.
So I mentioned coming on the show, but well, Davin talked to me about it, like he said, because he had heard about Duchess in several other podcasts. He's like, "Well, you think we can get Owen on here?" And I said, "I believe we can." So I called Owen a day or two later, and we was talking about something. I said, "I've got a question for you, Owen." He said, "What's that?" And I said, would you be interested in doing a podcast?" "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, let me change that around. You're going to do a podcast with us." Okay.
Yeah. Really, I really want to do it. I love the idea, but I just don't know that I'm your best interview. I get nervous and forgetful and everything else. But yeah, I'm really honored that you're even asking me for sure.
Well, and kind of another thing that I would like to try to get out of you a little bit, maybe, is we've done some breeder spotlights on some of the Grayson dogs in Box Creek and stuff like that. I really don't know anybody that has been involved with the River Run except for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're talking to you about Duchess and Duke, and we know Duchess was a River Run, and you got into that. But could you tell us a little bit about the River Run dogs, I guess their attributes, and kind of why you wanted one, and what makes them, or what made them so popular?
Well, all right, I can tell you, but no, I want you to know, and your listeners know, that it's just my opinion, but I have had them for long time, so I do know a little bit. But they tend to be hot nosed. They're really hot nosed, which can hurt you in a competition if the squirrels aren't stirring very well. But I lean towards pleasure hunting probably more than a competition hunt, so I'm okay with it. And I like that. I like going to the tree, and most of the time it's 8 out of 10 you're going to see a squirrel. I like that. So that's what I like, and they're really fast. They pretty much start early. It's just something that it's my hunting style. I've hunted with I don't know if I'll even call names, but I've hunted with several bloodlines, and I like a lot of them. There's a lot of them I like. I like the collies. I like champ bloodlines. I like all that, but this is just what I like. This is what suits me. But I say that, but even though the river runs or any breed, they have certain things that you can kind of expect, because you've seen it in their ancestors, but they're individuals too, they some of them got some quirks there that's a little different than anything you've seen. I've run into that several times. Jerry sat on his tailgate one time with me and told me the story how it started, but since then I think he was kidding me or what, but I've heard about 3 different stories of how it started. So I don't know if mine is really that accurate or not. But he told me that he had a dog, or he had a restaurant. If I got this right, it's been 35 years ago, but it was a restaurant, and he was throwing scraps out to this dog that was hanging around. And one day he heard it barking down in the woods, and he went down there. It had a squirrel, and he happened to have his gun in his truck, so he went down there and got it. And lo and behold, he took that dog home with him, and that was JD. That's what started it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he bred it to some Mr. Robert Kimmer's cur dogs. And that's where the Jewel and Rubies and Baby and I forget, there was several of those gyps came out. And he bred them back to JD. And that's where the Beaver and Blue Water Rusty and several others. I know I'm forgetful. Like I said earlier, I'm forgetful now, but there was lots of good dogs come out of that. So that guy from Baton Rouge he was right. If you wanted to compete back then, you had to have a river run because they was winning. Now the Beavers and the Blue Waters and all that, they were definitely winning. Lo and behold, I forgot Van Cochran's buck. From here in Mississippi. See, I almost forgot that one. That was out of that same cross.
Now, was that Blue Water Rusty? Was that Porter's Blue Water Rusty?
That's correct. Yep.
I've got some of that way back in probably 5th or 6th generation on a couple of my dogs.
Really? Yeah. Well, that explains a lot.
Well, which river run did Duchess come out of?
Her daddy was a dog called Rooster, which was out of JD and Jewel, and then he bred it back to the mama, which was Jewel. So it was a son to daughter cross, or son to mama cross.
And I always try to get like a picture painted of the dog, especially these dogs of yesteryear that you can't get on Facebook and find them real easily. So what did Duchess look like? Her size, her weight.
She was bigger than ATFA. That was 17 inches was the measurement for the female, 18 for a male, and she pushed the heck out of that 17. She was 17 or all of it, Yeah, but she was a blondish red dog, like Blue Water Rusty. You've probably seen pictures of him in the ATFA book. Looked a lot like him.
I like red.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
I know Chad does. Well, I tell you what now, Chad's got a humdinger in that bow now, I'm telling you. I've drawed him twice, and he's the real deal. He is the real deal.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I was just sitting here looking on my doll female on her mother's side. Goes back to Porter's Blue Water Rusty,
Yeah.
and they bred Porter's Blue Water Rusty to a Cadillac Jack female,
There you go.
and that's how it kind of come into mind. You know, we talk a lot about it, and it's good we talk to you, and we've talked to Todd. And, there for a long time there was an imaginary line between Tennessee and Kentucky. The dogs from the south didn't go north, and the dogs from the north really didn't go south much. You didn't
Right.
see much crossover there. The booster dogs, then the river run dogs, a lot of those collie dogs, we didn't really ever see those up here much.
Right.
And the only
Yeah.
thing I heard about River Run was, boy, a little bit goes a long way. Is
Well,
everything I
they
heard.
they they can be a handful now. They can because, like I said, they're a live wire, But if you get them on a squirrel. I mean, they're well. I'm gonna brag if I say too much, but they're hard to beat. I'll just put it like that. They
You can
are
brag.
hard to
It's your
beat. They're
show. You can
fast.
brag.
I mean, they're fast. I mean, they're fast, and they'll put them up quick if they're stirring. I mean, if they ain't, it can be nasty, because they want to tree a little bit, but they don't want. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to the Smith Streak with Duchess, because she was a little loose on a cold tree. And I seen these mountain curves just lay up on a tree and put their chest on the tree, and I said, I want. That's what I need for competition, you know, because on them cold days, they're like, I don't know if I want to call her on that or not. But and it worked too. It worked. But then I dove right back into the river run, and I stayed steady with that. I just bounced out that one time, and I stayed steady with that, and it worked out. But now here just recently, I'm doing it again. I only this time it's going to be the Barger line. And out of all these years, I've never had a barger, and now I finally got some of that in my kennel. I went to Casey Simon's Merle dog,
Okay.
which is the same thing that I did with Todd, because Merle was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, half River Run. So it was kind of the same recipe I did years ago.
Staying back in yesteryear, but coming forward a little bit, then bring us into Duke. So you've told us already that he was crossed, Duchess was crossed with Todd Cole's booster line, and how you got Duke, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Which, I guess, male out of Todd's line did you cross with?
It was Booster himself.
Oh, you went right to Booster. Okay, okay. I
Hmm.
wasn't sure about
Yeah.
timeline wise because you mentioned that Duchess was back in the '90s. So,
This was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yes, it was a long time ago.
well, I guess what we should have asked was how close was Duke and Duchess. I guess maybe you had them at the same
Yeah,
time or close to the same time
yeah,
because
that's correct.
I thought maybe
Yeah,
timeline wise.
probably about the. I think they were exactly the same age, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
Todd held up a little better than I did. I look my age.
Well, so was Duke a brindle dog? I know Booster puts that brindle
Yeah,
on him and it's
yeah,
hard to cover up.
he was what. I'm sorry, Dan. Yeah, he was Brindle. He was what I call a orange Brindle. It was like these boxer type brindles,
Oh,
real
like a
orange
reverse
and
brindle kind of.
with black. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess that came from Todd's brindle and my red. So it was perfect mix for that color, I guess.
And was he in that 17-inch size or 18-inch or smaller?
Oh yeah, no, he was fine. Yeah, he made it easy. He was probably about 16 inches tall,
Yeah, that's a
and
good safe
their
size.
limit's 18. Yeah, he was perfect for us. That he was easy. You know, but yeah, he what happened to us down here, Davin, is we had a little storm called Katrina.
I've heard of that one.
And yeah, and it devastated our world. It just devastated us. I mean, we felt like all our trees were down, and we felt like they would never come back. I mean, you couldn't walk 5 feet without climbing or crawling. I mean, it was just Anybody listening that lived through that knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I hung in there because I had so much invested in my breeding program and everything. I had good dogs, but I just I just couldn't. They were wasting in the pen. I couldn't do it. So I started divvying them out, and all but Duke. Duke ain't going nowhere. He stayed here, but everybody else, I didn't even sell them. I gave them away, and but I gave them where I knew they'd have good homes. And fast forward, I don't know how many years. 2005 was when that happened. So I got out at about 7, and I don't know. I think it was 2019. So 10 years plus, maybe 15 years later, I'm on Facebook and I'm looking at these puppies. Pretty puppies, real fine. I like them. And then I look at it, the guy posted the pedigrees too. Well, it had some of my dogs in it. It went back to Dutch's even. And I says, man, I said, I like your puppies, and I really like how they bred, ha ha, in a text.
Yeah.
And this guy that I'm talking about is a pastor in Arkansas named Michael Carter, and him and Chad West are partners. Anyway, and he said immediately he texted me back. He said, "You want one?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to retire in about a year." I said, "It'd be perfect. I'll call you back in about a year and see if you got any puppies in." And he goes, "Oh no, man." He said, "You got a year to mess with him every evening when you come home, and when you retire, you'll have a squirrel dog. Be ready." Well, he was right. I mean, he made sense. I said, he's right about that. And I said, "Okay, well, how much you want for him?" And he said, 500. and, and I said, "Oh Lord, I'm used to the 150. I hadn't come into the age yet." I said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "No, no." He says, "I want you to have one." He said, "I know who you are." He said, "I want you to have one." And I'll never forget it. I didn't even tell him thank you. I said, "I'm on my way." And I got up that next morning, son, and I was on my way. But the funny part about it, Davin, is I went on my motorcycle. And I went up there and got him. He was only 6 weeks old. And I bought one of those little pet taxis and put on the back of my bike, and I put a towel over it. It wasn't cold weather or anything. And I brought him home. So his first introduction was on a motorcycle.
Well, and I had heard that story. I think that was on the UKC, and I was telling Chad about that one. But I had in my head that he rode in the saddlebag, so I guess my version of it was just a little more dramatic.
No,
so he wasn't a pet
I
carrier.
guess I actually could have done that, but a pet carrier. But I had one of them little soft ones. It was pretty cool. He did every time I got him out, man. He was real happy as could be, So it didn't bother him.
That just gives me an idea. I know how I can get completely independent pups now. If I put them on either one of my motorcycles, them suckers are going to be deaf before we get anywhere.
Yeah, I know. I stayed quiet. I do have a Harley, but I stayed quiet with mine. I didn't put the pipes on.
Well, and not to skip past Duke too much, but did you do a lot of competition hunting with Duke?
Yes, sir. He never made ATFA champion, and the reason it's tough with ATFA. You have to travel. I mean, because they have like one in each state, and it's just a lot of traveling, involved. So I didn't make a lot of their hunts, but I did do UKC, and I wound up making him a grand champion in UKC.
Okay.
Sure did. Or he made himself one. I was just part of it.
You
I
just there for
toted
the
him
ride.
there. Yeah. Now he was. Now I know everybody likes Dutchess, especially the boys that grew up hunting with me. They loved her and everything, but Duke was the one. He was the one.
Well, that was going
And
to be
matter
one
of
of my
fact,
questions.
yeah, I say he was 12, 13 years old, and he was blind and deaf. And every day, because I let him be a dog then, he's out in the yard and everything, and sleeping most of the time. But every once in a while, I'd hear him down in the woods treeing. And he, poor thing, he'd be bumping into trees and everything else, And anyway, this kid that or he's a grown man now, but he said, look, my kids, I promised them to take them squirrel hunting, and I got a friend and his kids, and can we borrow Duke? And I said, man, you know, he can't see and he can't hear. I said he will tree, but I don't think he'll do too well with him. Well, it's just kids. It'll be all right. I said, all right. Well, he come, man. You ought to heard the stories. I think they killed like 30 squirrels with him that morning.
Wow.
So, I mean, he got in a fence row. I think they were in a good place, of course, but yeah, he got into a fence row, and they said it was like one right behind the other. So that's I don't know if y'all telling me the truth, but you just melted me down right there. So that was the best thing you could have ever told me.
And them kids were hooked. I guarantee you. They probably thought, man, if a
Oh
blind and
yeah,
deaf dog can do this, I wonder what one that can see can do.
yeah. And he called me. He was still in his truck coming home. He said he's in their lap right now. They wouldn't let me put him in the dog box.
So do all the dogs you have now go back to Duke and Duchess that you still got?
Yeah. Yep, they all do. And that puppy that I forgot to elaborate on that, Annie. That puppy is the one I'm calling Piro, the one I got from Michael Carter. And he has done very well, you know, very, very well. I mean, he's already made ATFA Grand Champion, and he's made a UKC Grand Champion. And I know he's NKC champion. I don't know. I have to look, see if he's an NKC Grand. I'm not sure. I don't think he's made Grand yet. We don't have a lot of those around us anymore, those type hunts. But yeah, and I told you earlier when I started that they're a hot nosed dog, you know. So, but I'm eyeing this NSD. That's all new to me. I've never even heard of NSD when, back in the day. So that's new to me. But I'm doing pretty good in these others. I might want to try that. Well, somebody says, well, they do that midday cast. You sure you want us? I said, well, yeah, I better practice for that.
A little extra walking.
He did good. Yeah. Oh, my Lord. He looked at me like, what are we doing? We're in the middle of the day. Ain't nothing like I said, okay, maybe this NSD ain't for me. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway.
Pedro down there at Mississippi. I went down there for the Mississippi State hunt that they had. And, me and Vance and Anna loaded up and took off down there. And we hunted that morning and had a pretty good hunt that morning. And we got back just all sitting around aggravating and agitating each other. He got time around to draw out, and he draws the cards out, and he was the judge, so his name was already on the card, and then he drawed my name.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough,
yeah.
All the cards sitting there, he draws Vance.
Yeah.
Here, me, him, and Vance going to the woods together, and that was a fun cast.
Oh yeah, all three dogs. Yeah, all three dogs, Davin. You'd love that. That was probably the best cast I ever been on. I mean, all three dogs was split treat and hammering the whole time. And I like to tell people, if Piro hits the right conditions, you can't beat him. Well, that was his conditions, and he got beat. But Chad will tell you, it was close, wasn't it, Chad?
Oh yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah, I think Piro he timbered one, and I got minus, and that hurt pretty bad. But it was like tit and tat. I mean, it was like I know it was on. They were all three of them dogs was on fire. We was in them that day.
Yeah, that was a pretty powerful cast to be out on.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does East Bowley Kennels look like now? We know you got Payro. So, what other dogs you got right now?
I have a little Jip that's full blood river run. I'm talking about Tim Cosby type river run. Anybody listening that knows Tim Cosby knows what I'm talking about. And he's a big river run man. Anyway, and I got 2 puppies out of her that I went to Merle with. And both of them, they're about 9 months old now, and they're starting to tree a little bit. And beautiful black and tan. I mean, beautiful little dogs. And that's where I'm at now.
You had a blue one come out of a litter. Was it earlier this year or last year? Did you keep that one?
No, that was in that same cross, that little river run crossed over to Merle. She's black and tan, he's black and tan. I figured they'd all be black and tan, but they were the blue one popped out. And look, it struck some. It struck. I mean, you should have seen the thread that went on
Oh, yeah,
Facebook
that's what
about
caught my
that.
attention. Which it was. I mean, it's you don't see those pop out a whole lot, and so when I
No,
saw it, it caught my attention, and I went to the comments and I thought, man, he could ask an arm and a leg for that puppy.
yeah, yeah. Well, the stud fee got that one.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Casey said that one's coming to my house. I said, okay, you got it. Yeah,
So
yeah.
what other
But
litters you got planned right now?
well, I have another full blood river run male here, and that I plan on breeding to my river run female. So it'll be a first time cross. So we'll see if that's going to work or not.
Well,
I
and
got
we
a
had a
dog called
listener actually. I don't know if he reached out to you or not, and I apologize to him because his name's leaving me. But I believe he was in Texas, and he had reached out and was kind of asking questions, bloodline, this and that. And I had said something about River Run, and I guess in his research, he said, "Well, I hadn't heard of those dogs." And I told him, "I don't know, because you don't see a lot of full river runs anymore." I said, "But I think Owen over in Mississippi has probably got a pretty good stock of full river run."
I got a male and a female that's just as river run. I jokingly say this, but that male ought to have four eyes probably. But but he really doesn't have any behavior problems. He's beautiful. I mean, I ain't seen nothing that would let you think that maybe he was that tight of breeding, but he is.
Well, is there anyone, I mean, that you know of? Would you think that you have the strongest stock of river run in your kennel, or are they still going? I guess that's what I'm lost on.
Yeah, I'm well. Like I said, I had a time period that I wasn't in, so I didn't keep up like I should have. And so when I come back, I really didn't see a whole lot. But just recently, on Facebook, I see some people saying that they got a river run, or they're somebody they know has one, so they're still out there. They're still out there. I don't know anybody that's breeding them just to be having river runs though. Exclusively, that's the word I was looking for.
Well, a lot of these lines that we're reaching back and talking about, they're unfortunately they're getting so watered down that we're losing some of these lines if we're not careful.
Right, right. I agree with that. I do.
So,
Yeah.
well, Owen, it's hit there about my favorite time now. Story time. I always try
Okay.
to get a funny story out of people. Now, whether you'll admit to any stories or not, we'll see. But any funny stories on yourself out there?
No, I'm pretty straight up. I don't have no. I'm kidding. There is some. You caught me off guard though. I don't know of any right now.
Well, I
Uh,
tried to reach out to Barrett, your son, on Facebook,
oh
and I did it
Lord.
kind of late notice, and we're not officially Facebook friends, so he probably doesn't even know that, Facebook hides the messages unless you're officially friends or whatever. So I've been sitting here
Yeah.
staring at Facebook through this whole interview, hoping that he would see the message and get back to me.
I
Man,
about to
I
say
tell you
I've
what,
never
I'm glad he didn't. Hell, he'd have got me.
Well,
Oh,
well,
there is some good stories. I don't know. Some of them might be long winded,
so
but
if the way you react by the relief that Barrett didn't get back to me in time, or that I guess I should say I got to him too late. Uh,
yeah, right.
if you were afraid
Yeah.
of Barrett telling any story, what would that be?
Well, he was with me one time. I have a friend that hunts the high fence exotic ranches, and most of them being in Texas. Well, anyway, he was talking to one of the owners, and the owner told him they had a squirrel problem. Said it was just eating all the feed for his exotic animals. And he said, "Well, I have a friend that can help you out." Talking about me. So he called me up, and I said, "Yeah, I'll go. I'll go. That'll be fun." Me and Barrett load up with him. Barrett's about 10 years old. Anyway, we load up there. Well, we meet that owner when we get there. And I says, "Hey, man, you said it's an exotic ranch. I says, now, does that mean lions and tigers? Or, he goes, no, 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 no. He said, it's just grazing animals. You ain't got nothing to worry about. He said, well, maybe that, you better watch that Watusi now. He's a little bit mean. Well, I laughed, because I think Watusi's a dance. I ain't never even heard of that. Y'all know what a Watusi is?
No, but just for a quick timeout, this is all coming back to me. Do you remember, Chad, when we were talking to Todd, he mentioned Owen during his emu story, and he said if y'all ever talk to Owen, ask about the Watusi, and this is just dawning on me right now. But I did look it up.
Right.
So Watusi looks like a longhorn, but they got twice the horns, and the base of their horns about as big as a basketball.
Yeah, and they're about 7 foot at the shoulders.
Yeah, they're
Whoa.
huge.
Yeah, they're big. God. But it was funny, Davin. It was just he scripted it. He says, "Look, don't worry about it." He said he's slow and he's dumb. He said all he really wants is corn. Says when you drive through the gate, there's gonna be a little shed over to the left. He says, he just grab some of that corn out of there, run out there, throw it down, and just run off from it, and he'll get the corn and leave you alone.
Famous last words.
Well, it was just like he said, man. We come through the gate, and here he comes. So I jump out of the truck, and I run over there, and I get the corn. I run out there, chunk it, and I keep running a little ways, turn around, see what he was going to do. He goes right past that corn. He's coming after me. In an old farm truck up there. So I jump in the back of that thing. Well, I mentioned he's 7 foot at the shoulders. That ain't high enough. So I had to get up on the cab. And that thing was so mad that he was putting his horns under the wheel well of that truck and picking it off the ground.
Whoa.
And yeah, I know. And I said, Barrett, shoot him. You got to shoot him. Anyway, he had bird shot and he was pretty far off, but he had to shoot him about 3 times to make it. He was mad, son. He was mad at me about something.
What, did you not give him enough corn?
Huh? Yeah.
Put out a big enough pile of corn?
Yeah, right, yeah. But anyway, he went on, but that was the funny part of the story. But later on, so we go squirrel hunting, and the very first tree, Duchess trees, and I said, okay, Doug, that was my friend. I said, Doug, I see the squirrel. Let me get him. And when I shot, there was 25 squirrels come out of that tree.
Whoa, he did have a problem.
I mean, they went everywhere. And I said, dadgum, well, the next tree was like that. And the next tree, we wound up putting her up. I went and put her back in the truck, and we just rode around shooting squirrels. I think we killed like 75 squirrels.
You didn't even need the dog.
No, you didn't need a dog. No.
Tell me how to get there so when I'm starting my next pup, I know where to go.
Yeah, it was close to Huntsville, Texas. But no, I don't think outside that fence was like that. He had feeders everywhere. It was all kind of animals in that thing.
The Watusi's gone by now.
Yeah.
That's true. It may not be worth starting a dog there if you got to fight that thing. Well, Owen, we appreciate you. Do you want to plug your kennel and tell them where to find you, or if you got litters available, you want to do any plugging?
No, I appreciate that, Davin. I do it for me. Now, when I do have a litter, I keep one out of it and I sell it, but that's rare, like 1 litter a year. So I'm not in the business or anything, but but my kennel name is East Bowley Kennel, and where I came up with that when I first got in it, everybody had Blue Water this, and everybody was named after a creek, it seemed like. So I said, okay, well, I'll just name it after my creek. We got a creek near me called East Bowley, so that's where that came from.
Creeks are common. I'll agree with you on that.
My buddy RB that, I talked about him having beagles, he ended up trading around and got him a pretty good dog. And horrible name. So AKC, once they're named, that's the name.
Mm-hmm.
No changing names. But we went to first field trial with him, and of course he signed up, got his dog measured, all that good stuff. We sitting in there. They announced that dog. Said dog's name was Skinner Back Jack. RB Sester. He ducked his head as low as he could get at that table and just barely raised his hand.
He hated the name that much, huh?
Golly.
So, Owen, we do appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate you taking the time, staying up late for us. With my young kids, it's
Well,
always
thank
hard
you.
to schedule these, and so far it's gone good with guests, and the guests have been gracious to let us call them at night, so that works.
Yeah, well, thank you, Davin and Chad. Like I said earlier, I'm honored. Yeah, thank you. I know I'm not the best interview, but I appreciate you asking.
And I'm glad to have some Duchess and some Duke information recorded, because about the third time the name Duchess popped up, that's when I told Chad, let's get Owen on. Let's talk to him. Let's learn about them dogs.
Yeah.
And I know, well, you may have already fed, but I always feed mine at night, so I got a dog I got to go feed. But,
Yes, that's right.
But Chad, Owen, I appreciate it. Good episode, good information, and look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Chad. We'll talk later.
Hi, Jim.
All right. See you.